Hello.
Keep your head up. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Awesome. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Good.
Wonderful. It's great to see your smiling faces again.
How are you?
Wonderful. Blessed and grateful. Thank
There
you.
go.
How are you guys doing? Tell me something good. What's happening in your world you're excited about?
I got my haircut today.
Oh, yeah. You look like me.
Just one hair? Just one hair?
Excuse the glare.
Yeah. I got the same thing going on.
Thank
Let
you.
me
I
turn the ring light
got
off.
all of them cut.
Yes, I got all of them cut.
That's awesome.
Oh, except that one. That one's a straggler.
That's good. That's good. Wonderful. What else? Tell me something good.
Hey, Gary, it's Barb. I
Hi,
have
Barb.
my, hey, I have, I've got paperwork with sellers, very dear friends of mine, and I will have my biggest by far ever listing going on the market in mid-August. And what's more exciting to me about it is that they're doing some work on the property, signing the paperwork now. Is that, you know, I've known these guys since before I knew Rich. I worked with the wife. The husband was a contractor. He built this house. He actually did our first renovation on the first property condo that Rich and I live in. So I've known these guys a long time, and they know other realtors that they've known a lot longer than me. And I'm just so honored that they chose me to list their home. They're gonna retire and they felt like it was the right time. So it's on Sunset Beach. It's a Mediterranean Gulf front, quality built, 4-bedroom home, and it's beautiful. And I'll tell you more when I get closer to the date, but I'm really excited about it.
Well, congratulations. And that's great. That's excellent work. What that means to me is you've built the highest level of trust. I mean, they've already answered yes to those 3 questions. Is she good at what she does? You know, can I trust her? And does she care about us? So you obviously fit that bill. So congratulations. That's awesome. That's great. It's great to see your smiling face, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Who else has something good to share? Tell me something good.
I had got my buyers under contract in Palm Harbor for $229,000 for a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. And when we got there, it was listed at $229,000, and we thought that was really, really low. So we called the agent thinking that he was looking for a multiple offer scenario, and we asked, you know, what's it going to take to get it off the market? And he said, just come in near ask. And I said, hey, Frank, I don't think you really understand what the buyers want to know. They want to know what's it going to take just to get it so that we can have the property today. And he said, just come in and ask and we'll make it happen. And so we came in and asked with the offer, and we got it to $229,000. And then I negotiated an additional $10,000 with the inspections and got it down to $219,000 for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom in Palm Harbor.
Congratulations. Great job, Derek.
Thank you.
But your buyer must be happy for you, right? Happy.
Yeah, they were ecstatic, and you know, it just goes to show that there are deals out there, and there are people who are not motivated by just money. There's other motivators for sellers.
Right. You don't know unless you ask. And the more questions that you ask, the more you learn about how people think and what's important to them. So don't stop asking questions. You know, always want to be respectful, but always keep asking, you know, what's important to you about that, you know, and what will that do for you? And, you know, what's a win for you? Even directly, what's a win for you? You know,
Right.
and then you would just make it win-win, right? As best we can. Well, you represented your client really well. Good job. Who
Thank you.
else? Tell me something good.
So between Brian Forster and I, we did just over $6 million this month. And pre-approvals are still coming in hot and heavy. So
Awesome. So the market is still hot. Buyers are still cooking.
there's still buyers out there that are wanting to find a place.
Right. So that's still the challenge, right? Finding a place.
Absolutely.
Or is that eased up for you guys? Are you having an easier time finding a place for your buyers?
I mean, you know, obviously it's not us, it's the realtors, the buyer's agents that are doing a great job doing that.
Well, I was asking everybody else too.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. No, I was asking everybody else too, to see if what their feelings are, is whether they feel there's still a tremendous lack of inventory, or whether they feel that they're able to find some things for buyers. Because properties are selling, so somebody's finding houses for buyers. Because we have a record months every month according to the board, as far as the stats are, right? Even though we have fewer active listings year over year, we're still getting more sales than we did the previous year. So if somebody's selling, right? All right. Well, congratulations, Kurt. That's great stuff. Way to go. Good stuff. Anybody else?
Hey, I'm Jacob.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you today?
Good. So
Wonderful.
I joined Judy's team and I already have 2 buyers under contract. I just joined this month. I already have 2 buyers under contract and I have 2 listings. One's already under contract and one should go under contract Monday.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Excellent
Congrats.
work. Way to
Great
go.
job.
Way to go. Fantastic. That's the way to do it.
She's a brand new agent, Gary. She's only had 1 sale previous to joining our team. And when she
Wow.
joined our team, she went full-time in real estate, took the leap of faith. I think it was a good leap. What do you think?
I think it's a great thing. And sometimes,
Yes.
and sometimes
Might
just
be good at this.
sometimes it's just the willingness to do whatever it takes that launches you forward. You know, a lot of times we have fear and trepidation that holds us back, or whatever that little monkey is on our shoulder that causes us to not really jump in with both feet, but or that fear causes us to not grow as fast as we can. It's that leap of faith that's going to, determine how, when things work out. I mean, you jumped in and all of a sudden things started happening for you, right? So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Just keep it going that way and keep your mindset positive. That's the most important thing. Don't make your highs too high. Don't make your lows too low. Things happen. Good things happen. Sometimes things happen that we have to learn from. But just remember, everything that happens doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And if you look at it that way and you learn from what just happened, then you'll continue to grow and you'll continue to be a better and better asset to your clients. And it'll be a more and more fun business. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Handling adversity with grace is important. Also, to give other people grace, because other people make mistakes too. And in this real estate business, it's very highly volatile and emotional. Would you agree with that? People making changes in their lives. So we have to be a calming influence, not impose our agenda on them or our stress on them. Does that make sense? We're here for them, right? Good work. Proud of you. Who else?
Gary,
Gary-
this is,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
no, that's all right. Go ahead.
It's
Michelle.
Cassie Roberts. I just wanted
Okay,
to
Cassie, go
add
ahead.
to, oh, sorry.
Right,
I just wanted to add a little bit to our first and second speaker. I apologize, I forgot the names. How she was amazed, that she got the listing. And of course, they know a million agents. I have the same fear and feeling. And one thing y'all taught me, Keller Williams, and my market center, is just because you go to the doctor and you go get your hair done, you need to talk about real estate. And it happened to me. I was talking to my hairdresser, and you know how hairdressers talk to everybody. I said, yeah, she told me at one point, I know a million agents. So then when I went in the second time, we talked again. I said, I know you and your wife are talking about buying a home. Please let me know, if I can help you in any way. She goes, well, I'm using you for sure, Cassie. And I'm like, what? So again, Keller Williams taught me, just ask all the doctors, the dentist, appointments for your family, wherever you go, just ask. We have to ask. We can't be scared.
That's right. Exactly. People like to do business with people that they like, number one. And they also like to do business with people that like what they're doing. So if you have passion and excitement for what you're doing, it's going to be contagious. You're going to be attracting people all around you, wherever you go, because you love what you do. That's why it's so important for you to take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Don't get tired. When that phone rings and you're dreading the call, that might mean you need to take some time off, or might mean you're burning the end at both. You're burning both ends. You might want to make sure you take time for yourself. So, but that's awesome. Congratulations. Exactly right. The market is crazy. The market's fun. The market's exciting, and there's an abundant amount of opportunity that's out there for each and every one of you. I can't share that enough. I mean, you all have people you connect with, you all have people that you know, that like you. And even if you don't, there's people out there that need a good person to help them and guide them through the buying or selling process in this business. Right? You agree?
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. Anybody else tell me something good or give me an aha that you learned in the last 30 days, either or.
Yeah, Gary, this is Shelley Coon. I had a great week. I had a closing Monday here with some clients that I've had, first time home buyers, working with them with January. So they were saving some money and they got it together and they pushed to get a house because they wanted one. So that was great. And then lo and behold, I get a call this week from another out of town buyer that put things on hold I've been working with since the pandemic. And they were coming in and took them out yesterday, and I didn't expect them to buy, but all of a sudden they bought. So I got another
Nice.
offer out there that I'm hoping going to be under contract here today. And now I'm getting ready to see my kids. I'm leaving for a trip tomorrow to Missouri, and I haven't seen them since the pandemic. So I'm real excited about that.
That's wonderful. So life is really wonderful. That's fantastic. Enjoy your trip, enjoy your family, and those deals will stay together for you. That's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you for sharing, Shelby. Awesome.
Thanks.
What else? Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say, Gary. So I got 2 closings out here on the 30th. That will make it 5 for this month, and it put me about 1.5 million, which would be about my best month ever.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Way to go, man.
thank you.
1.5 million a month. That's great.
Yeah,
Way to
and that was
go.
after 1.3 last month.
Ah,
Yeah, and then I just on the ALC. So Howard pulled up my broker metrics, and it's up 120% year over year.
awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Way to go, man. That's exciting.
Dang, 120%. That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that means
And-
you more than doubled where you were last year.
Yeah, well, yeah. I feel very blessed. And then I'm actually leaving on 1:15 for a canceled appointment listing that I have at 2:00. And I just got one earlier this week, or actually ended last week, just listed it this week. Same thing. Just people, having bad representation, and I'm able to help them. And it's, instead of doing expires, I'm just doing cancels. And there's a lot of business out there.
Awesome. So are these people you had called before that were in your
No, these are
database already?
I built my business on calling expireds, and so I just kind of transferred into canceled because I mean, let's face it, they don't expire. They just have bad experience with their agent, and so they're forced to cancel.
Yeah, exactly. So good stuff. Great. Way to go.
Brian, I love that you're adding that creativity to it, right? That's like
Yeah.
follow the model. And then once you're on the model, which was the expired, you can then transition that into the creativity, which is super cool to then the cancels.
Yeah, they're every day. There's like 30 of them.
That's powerful. That's a great aha, and it's great advice. Also, old expireds and withdrawals too.
That's a good
There's
point.
no doubt about that, because depending on how old the old expired or withdrawn it is, their value's gone up significantly. Whether it's 1 year or whether it's longer than that, it's still an unbelievable opportunity to sell.
Yeah. I think Jake just got a $5 million buyer under contract.
We're working on it.
Oh, that haven't?
That hasn't happened. We're working on it.
Well, great. That's great. You got a high buyer, huh?
We do. We got a big fish on the line. We'll see if we can reel them in.
Good luck.
Yeah. I do have an aha from last week. We had a chance to listen to Linda McKissick for a while, and she was saying something about, she was talking about, it was interesting, her strengths, like knowing her strengths, and she pushes hard and she kills it for a time, and then she steps back to refresh. And it was just nice to hear that someone of her, she's on a bit of a pedestal in the world of business, that, taking that time and knowing what you can push on, and then finding that time to sit back and refresh was super cool. And that was a pretty big aha, like, yeah, I need to make sure that I'm doing that in my own business. It can't just be push all the time.
You're right. Like I said, when the phone starts becoming a pain, that's one of the first signs. You don't want to get to the point of burnout, because burnouts take, the degree of burnout can determine how fast you're going to get out of it. You know, I mean, if you've been going, and I mean, if it's a bad burnout, you can be down and out for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to make sure you take care of yourself. You know, all the circles, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You know, and the financial piece will work out, but financial piece is kind of a culmination of physical, spiritual, mental, emotional. Follow what I'm saying? And which it's not just what you do in business. It's why are you doing what you're doing for business? You know, what are the benefits that are going to come from you achieving the levels that you're going to achieve? Is it just a game of doing that, or how is your life and your family's life and the people that you love going to be impacted by how you grow as in your business? Right?
Yeah, and you know what? The other thing that I'll leave with what Linda said is that every multiplier needs a simplifier. And in her world, you know, I'm sure you know already, like who's the multiplier and who's the simplifier. And I sit back and be like, oh, that's exactly in my world as well. You know, my wife Annie does our operations. She's the simplifier. I'm the multiplier, and you have to have them both. You can't just always be multiplier. Like Jess Fox used to tell me that I'm really good at kicking the beehive, but I'm a horrible beekeeper. And so that's where you need that other piece in your world to then wrangle all that in, which was super. Like I was like, that makes complete sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, usually the idea people aren't the implementers. You know what I'm saying? You know, you ever have a team meeting and everybody's got a great idea. All these great ideas happen. They all come out. Everybody's excited and pumped up. Nothing gets done because no one knows what they're going to do. I mean, you got shared a lot of great ideas, but what are you going to do? How do you get from idea to implementation? Right. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, we do. You need that. You need all that for sure. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Brian. Way to go, man. What else? Anybody else? Okay, ready to jump into the materials? Okay, let's get going. You interested in learning things you can learn from your children or your grandchildren? You can nod. No? Well, we're going to go anyway.
Yes, so I am interested in that.
I'm teasing. All right. Remember the master teacher once said 2,000 years ago, unless you can become like little children, your chances are zero. You haven't got a prayer. This is a major consideration for adults. Be like children. And remember, there's 4 ways to be more like a child, no matter how old you get. Number 1 is curiosity. Be curious. Embrace childish curiosity. What will kids do if they want to know something bad enough? You're right, they'll bug you. Kids can ask a million questions. You think they're through, then they've got another million. They'll keep plaguing you. They can drive you right to the brink. Kids use their curiosity to learn. Have you ever noticed that while adults are stepping on ants, children are studying them? A child's curiosity is what helps them to reach, learn, and grow. So you've heard us say it over and over again. It's about staying in curiosity and getting out of judgment. Curiosity prompts question. It prompts learning. Judgment prompts usually miscalculations and missed opportunities. 2, excitement. Learn to get excited like a child. There's nothing that has more magic than childish excitement. Which we were talking about earlier, you know, when you go to the hair salon, you know, if you're excited about what you're doing, it's going to be, you're going to attract people that want to do business with you and refer you. But if you're talking about how busy you are and how tired you are and how tough this business is, they think they're doing you a favor by not referring you any business. So the one thing you never want to do is complain about your real estate practice when you're out in a social setting, right? So excited that you hate to go to bed at night, that you can't wait to get up in the morning, that you're about to explode. How can anyone resist that kind of childish magic? Now, once in a while, I meet someone who says, well, I'm a little too mature for all that childish excitement. Isn't that pitiful? You've got to weep for these kids, these kinds of people. All I've got to say is if you're too old to get excited, you're old. Don't get that old. Next, faith. Faith is childish. How else would you describe it? Some people say, let's be adult about it. No, No. Adults too often have a tendency to be overly skeptical. Some adults even have a tendency to be cynical. Adults say, yeah, I've heard all that old positive line before. It'll be a long day in June before I fall for that positive line. You got to prove to me it's any good. See, that's adult, but kids aren't that way. Kids think you can get anything. They're really funny. You tell them we're going to have 3 swimming pools and they say, yeah, 3, 1 each. Stay out of my swimming pool. See, they start dividing them up right away, but adults are not like that. Adults say 3 swimming pools. You're out of your mind. Most people don't even have 1 swimming pool. You'll be lucky to get a tub in the backyard. You notice the difference. No wonder the master teacher said, unless you can become like little children, your chances, they're skinny. And the last is trust. Trust is a childish virtue, but it has great merit. Have you heard the expression, sleep like a baby? Well, that's it. Childish trust. After you've gotten an A+ for the day, leave it in somebody else's hands. Curiosity, excitement, faith, and trust. That's a powerful combination to bring back into our lives. Any ahas from that? Any thoughts about that?
Gary, I got a thought. I was listening to the MREA book, and Gary was talking about how he was early on in teaching, and he was like, oh, if I had your kids in here and I told them all, hey, you got to know your limits, and you got to be able to self-identify what your max potential is going to be, and that's going to be it. And so don't go for any more. And the class he was teaching was like, no, they wouldn't have him ever do that to their kid.
Right.
And then he's like, well, why are we telling ourselves that then?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you're the living embodiment of how you're going to act and how you treat yourself. And so if you can take your limits off of you, then, and put yourself in that same mindset of just growing and absorbing as your kids would, then anything is possible.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that is interesting.
It is very powerful. Most of the time we don't think big enough through the process. Because we're imposing the anchor of reality on ourselves. Okay. And reality is not a great word when you're trying to build dreams, because our dreams reality, dreams are something. Dreams don't exist. I mean, dreams are not physical yet. They're a dream, right? So the only way you can make them possible is by believing it can happen. By having faith that things are going to fall into place, that you're going to do the things that it takes to build what you want to build. And then trusting what you're learning and what you're implementing, you're going to learn from and grow from, right? So yes, these are all 4 great ingredients. Curiosity, which is so critical. We learned that from Howard Brinton a long time ago. His slogan was, stay in curiosity and get out of judgment, because judgment stops growth. Judgment stops learning. If you judge yourself as not being able to sell luxury homes, or those people aren't going to like me in the higher end, then you've created that reality for yourself. Or if you judge that open houses don't work, or if you've judged that buyers are liars, you judge that sellers are greedy, that's the filter through which you see those people in those times, and you treat them differently, because that's the filter through which you're seeing them. You got to be totally in curiosity, believe. See, what you believe, what you think about, you become. So if you're thinking about the things that you want, you'll attract them to yourself. If you're thinking about the things that you don't want, then you'll attract those to yourself too. So what do you want to think about? Were you going to say something, Jake? You were muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was like agreeing with you, and I was like, yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Anybody else? Brian, you were going to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Anybody else on that? Next. Thanks, Tamara. 3 ways to turn nothing into something. Okay, we talked about dreams. Dreams are in your head. They're not reality yet, right? So don't impose an anchor of reality on limiting your possibilities. So 3 ways to turn nothing into something. In order to turn nothing into something, you got to start with some ideas and imagination. Ideas that become so powerful in your mind and in your consciousness that they seem real to you even before they become tangible. Imagination that is so strong you can actually see it. Make those ideas tangible with these 3 steps. Number 1, imagine all the possibilities. One of the reasons we go to seminars and sermons and listen to lyrics from songs and testimonials of others is to give us an idea of the possibilities, to help us imagine and see the potential. Number 2, you must believe that what you imagine is possible for you. Others' testimonials, such as, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can turn it all around, you can turn it all around. Or if I can change, you can change, often become a support to our belief. And we start believing. First, we imagine it's possible. Second, we start to believe that what's possible is possible for us. We might also believe because of our own testimonial. Your testimonial might say, if I did it once, I can do it again. Or if it happened for me before, could very well happen again. So those 2 things together are very powerful. Now we do not have an actual substance yet, but it's very close. And then 3 is go to work to make it real. You go to work to make it an enterprise. You go to work to make it an association. You go to work to make it a good marriage. You go to work to make it a movement. You make it tangible, you make it viable, you breathe life into it, then you construct it. That's such a unique and powerful ability for all of us human beings. Put this to work and start the miracle process today. You all know what I'm talking about, right? What are your thoughts on that? You've had things that have happened for you that you've created, right? Many of you that are here with experience, you've built unbelievable real estate practices. You've helped a lot of people. Okay, but some of you don't celebrate that because you're not where you want to be. As far as what the goal is and the dream that you have, you're on your way. But do you spend more time in the gap, the distance from where you are now to where you want to be? Or do you take any time to celebrate how far you've come?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. In
Because
fact,
how far you've come should be celebrated, because that'll empower you to move faster to where you want to go. Like, you just doubled your business 1 year. You know, was your goal to double your business this year?
yeah,
Good. Okay, good. Then you're achieving your goal. But some people, their goal might have been to more than double their business, and they wouldn't be feeling good about doubling their business. They'd feel terrible about not being on track to triple it. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's that's where you got to nurture yourself. You got to reward yourself. I'm not saying be easy on yourself. Be inspired, okay, and keep pursuing, even though you're not on track to where you think you want to be. But you got to put in the work, okay, and you got to try different things to get you on track. Like, you know, what you're doing now is working, so you're going to keep doing those things, and then what one other thing can I add to make it maybe even a little bit better, right? You don't stop doing what's already working, but you add on to it incrementally, one thing at a time. Like Gary's book, The One Thing, right? One thing at a time. Anybody else?
Baby steps. And that's what I love about KW. I've never worked for a company where everybody helps each other. Everybody honestly cares about each other. We're not in competition whatsoever. I'm a single agent. I have so many wonderful people in my office, Tampa Properties. And we honestly, I feel like we're all a group, basically. We all help each other, and it's amazing.
Well, that's the beautiful part of KW, because at KW, we're partners. Everyone has a vested interest in everyone else's success, because we share in the profits every month. Okay. At revenue sharing companies, that's not the way it is. The group that you're affiliated under, maybe for a little while, but after that, it's not self-generating. You don't have an interest in everybody's success in the company, because they don't share from the big piece of pie. They share from every agent's pocket.
Gary, what you said earlier reminded me of, you know, some of the things which I know a lot of agents probably on this call are in this place in their business, which is that my coach calls it the messy middle, right? That's where you're doing about 9 million to 10 million and you're growing to that next level, which is like that 16 million range. Like that messy middle is what my coach refers to it, where that's where a lot of agents kind of are. They're like, that's where you're just adding leverage on your team, maybe for the first time, and, or you're growing. And I've been like hitting my head on that ceiling in that space for probably a year. And it probably would have been more like 10 years if I didn't have my coach, because we're approaching kind of breaking through that. And yet that's where it's like things get kind of frustrating. There's a lot of change in that space, and it gets, you know, that just kind of related, made me think of what you were just saying, being, and I'm sure a lot of agents on this call are right in that growth spot where they're just about to like catalyst. Brian, I think you're like in there too, about to catalyst into that next phase.
That's where that E to P chart comes in, right?
Yep.
You know, because, you know, what got you where you are is valid and valuable. Now the question is what one thing should I add that by doing it will help launch me further and through this ceiling of achievement, you know? And it takes being learning based, looking into models and options and systems, and having a coach, you know, and it's just a lifetime of growth and learning. And as you become more worthy of your future relationships and wealth through learning and implementing, you'll break through those ceilings. But it's about never giving up, even though there's frustration.
Right. And it's really the who. That's the big one. That's the big
that's true. And that's the most frustrating part of it. Because when it's not just you doing it and trying to inspire other people to do it besides yourself, you can only do so much, right? You know, but it's finding the right people to help inspire them and help them achieve their goals and keep them in the right mindset. That's going to be the launching pad for you as an individual. That's how you succeed through others at the highest level, by helping them break through their drunk monkeys. Right?
Right.
You know, because you know, anybody, personal production has limits. I mean, even if you can do 100 million yourself, it's still a limit. It's still a limit. Okay. You know, but when you start succeeding, trying to succeed through people, then you have to learn other skills. You know, you have to really career visioning it, and 30, 60, 90 and those classes are powerful tools to help you learn how to build that leverage in your life. And it's powerful. It's unbelievable. It's powerfully strong when it's the right people, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world when it's not. Take it from me, I know. All right, what else? Any other thoughts? Okay, let's keep going. We got a lot of material. Good news. Ready for some good news?
Yes, sir.
Homeowner wealth increases through growing equity this year. Wow. Okay, we know that, right? Values are going up. Let's scroll down. I'm not going to read all that crap. Let's keep going down. Thank you. The one in red. This is powerful. The average equity gain of mortgaged homes during the past year was $33,400. Wow. So what buyer on the fence, or what renter still renting, if they knew this information, might cause them to get off their butt and buy a house? Second, the current average equity of mortgaged homes is greater than $216,000. Okay, people aren't upside down in their homes like they were back in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Okay, people have the most equity they've ever had in their homes right now. There was a 6% increase in total homeowner equity over the past year, and total U.S. homeowner equity has reached nearly $1.9 trillion. Interesting. Okay, and here we see.
Gary, I was talking to an appraiser who called me on one of our listings to ask me about like what was happening in the neighborhood that I was servicing in Dunedin. And he was averaging 8% per quarter increase.
Wow.
In the first half of the year. And that's the appraiser, that's what they were looking at.
Wow. Well, that's substantial.
Yeah.
24%?
Yeah.
32%. Wow.
No, 8% in the first 2 quarters of the year. So that's
okay,
16.
16.
So we've probably seen, you know, and I mean, I'm thinking appraisers are going to be kind of on the lower end. I guess maybe that's my own perception, that they would probably be a bit more conservative on their approach of that. And that's what he was like, that's what he's looking at, is like, that's what they're seeing. And I'm like, wow. And we saw that, like we've had several properties appraise at value, and I couldn't find comps to support contract price. And I'm like, what? Like, I think there's a class coming up, like all of that's happening in appraisals coming up on the calendar. I think it's next week. And I'm like, man, there's so much going on. And so it's just been interesting.
Katie teaching it?
No, I don't think so. Maybe maybe Brian P. I don't know if it might come from Van Dyke.
Good. I mean, that's powerful. I mean, if we're not having those appraisal problems, that's a lot more fun, isn't it?
I had two that just blew me away at value. I was like, fantastic. Thank you.
I've heard of that, and I've also heard of appraisal issues. It depends.
Oh, yeah.
On who they hire and what the limits that they have to work within.
It all depends on who you get. We're still preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
And yet planning for the best. Like prepare for the worst means buyers committing cash above appraised value, then plan for the best, which is that it comes in at value.
Well, they almost have to do that to win in competition.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's and buyers are paying more than market value, but the good thing is within a couple of weeks, the market value may be more than what they paid anyway.
We had that. So we put a buyer under contract, $91,000 above asking price, 91,000. And Michael on the team was like, this house is undervalued. Like it's undervalued. The appraisal came in and the buyer only had to bring $10,000 was the gap between appraised value and contract price. And he was $91,000 over asking with his contract. He won over 25 offers, but then the appraised value came in only 10,000 below contract price.
Wow.
And so it's like, and we're telling the buyers, it's like, look, you're not even going to get the chance if you don't swing for the fence. And then let's see how it plays out. Like, let's build in as much as we can to protect you. And then let's see how it shakes out based on what you're comfortable with.
Right. It all depends on how bad they want that house. And what.
Yeah, but he would have never got the chance. He would have never won if he was less. Even at 10,000 below, like he never would have won. But he was doing cartwheels, excited that he didn't have to bring $91,000 to the table, but he was prepared to do it.
Yeah.
Wow. He really wanted that house.
The seller accepted the appraised value.
Yeah. Buyer and seller were like, they were all ecstatic, because contract price, I think, was like 370 or asking was like 370. We were under contract 441 or something like that. And the appraisal came in at 430. And so when we did the market and when we had not analyzed the property, we realized like, this is undervalued,
right?
Like way under, like the listing agent priced it way below.
Right.
I mean, that's like 10%, no more, 30%. Oh, well, no, that 20% below market value is where he priced it.
Right.
And that's insanity. And yet it caused 30 offers. We happened to win with the buyer because we wrote a really well-written offer and the buyer was willing to go after it. And he listened to us. All right. The fiduciary versus functionary. So we're like, hey, look, here, a fiduciary is going to share with the market knowledge. And so he can decide. And then he did, and it worked out.
Right. Well, that's what FSBOs are saying no to also. There's a lot of FSBOs out there that don't have a clue what their property is worth. And that's a good story to share with them right there. Because by not having it out there where all the buyers have access, all the retail buyers have access to it, they're missing opportunities on getting all that it's worth. Any for sale by owner out.
Sure. And Gary says there's deals in every market, right? We're battling that objection all the time. Buyers like, oh, it's too crazy out there. Too crazy. And let me tell you, like, we're finding deals.
Yes. Yeah. And it might be the best time to sell in history of real estate, but it's still an unbelievable time to buy just because interest rates are so low and because everything cash flows for the most part. It's amazing. Okay, keep moving forward. Equity, there's a graph by state, what the increase in equity was for by state. Equity provides homeowners with flexibility. Existing homeowners today are sitting on record amounts of equity. As homeowners gain equity in their homes, the temptation grows to list their current home for sale and to use the equity to purchase a larger, more attractive home. Guys, I'd be on the phone every day. I'd be searching all the old expireds and the old withdrawns. I'd be talking to my database like crazy, offering to do an updated market evaluation and supply demand analysis for their home to find out how much their property is appreciated, to see if now might be the best time for them to consider moving up. or cashing out, one or the other. Homeowner equity has more than doubled over the past decade and became a crucial buffer for many weathering the challenges of the pandemic. These gains have become an important financial tool and boosted consumer confidence in the U.S. housing market, especially for older homeowners and baby boomers who've experienced years of price appreciation. Yeah, it was the real estate market that saved our economy through this pandemic. No doubt about it. All right, next. More good news. A look at home appreciation through 2025. Homeowners are witnessing their financial stability and well-being grow to record levels. There's forecasting for home prices will continue appreciating over the next 5 years, adding to the record amount of equity homeowners have already gained over the past year. So this year, they're predicting an average of, the experts, 8.66% appreciation. The appraiser, you said, using 16%. Okay, 2022 is 5, then 3.7, then 3.5, then 3.3. Next page. So what does this mean for homeowners? This truly becomes clear when we consider a scenario using a median priced home purchased in January of 2021 and the projected rate of appreciation on that home over the next 5 years. As the graph below illustrates, a $350,000 home, applying those numbers, they'll gain almost $100,000 in equity in the next 5 years, 93,629. Last year, they gained over 33,000. Okay. You can't get that from the bank. Next, home price appreciation and home equity. There we go again. The average annual gain per home per borrower over the past 12 months was $33,400. So double-digit home price growth in the last year has bolstered home equity to a record amount. CoreLogic recorded an 11.4% rise in the year through March 21st, leading to a $216,000 increase in the average amount of equity held by homeowners with a mortgage. People are not upside down in their houses. Okay. Next article. Are we in a housing bubble? We've talked about this more and more. We're not. We're not. Conditions are quite different than in the early 2000s, particularly in terms of credit availability. The current climate house prices reflect strong demand amid tight supply, helped along by record low interest rates. Underwriting standards are still strong, so there's little risk of bubble developing. Bill McBride.
On that note, I was listening to another sector of the economy, and I heard lumber gave back all the gains that it made in 2021, which means that the price of lumber is going back down, which is great for inflation as the economy if we're looking at it from the big picture economy, because if that inflation keeps running away, that will impact the housing market eventually because of just how that would go. And so that was a really good, I was super excited in my car, like yelling on the highway, like lumber gave back all the gains, because I got, we're doing home renovations. Our clients are doing home renovations and they're putting things on hold. They're like, I can't afford all this stuff. Well, it's signs that things are starting to normalize in the other sectors of the economy.
That would be a great thing. That would be a wonderful thing. And the other one that's interesting to me is Mark Fleming. He said, looking back at the bubble years, house prices exceeded the house buying power in 2006 nationally. But today, house buying power is nearly twice as high as the median sale price nationally. Many find it hard to believe, but housing is actually undervalued in most markets. And the gap between the house buying power and sales prices indicates there's room for further house price growth in the months to come. That's pretty powerful when you think about it. You think, well, how much longer is it sustainable for prices to keep increasing 8, 10, 12% a year? It's been that way for the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? So for people, as well as Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Merrill Lynch, all believe that we won't see home values crashing and we're not in the bubble. Okay. Now, The next article shows charts to document their thoughts of why we're not in a housing bubble. This is interesting. In 2006, mortgages that are originated when a buyer had less than a 620 credit score were at 376 billion. In 2020, it's 74 billion.
Gary, I saw this mention that the majority of the pre-approvals that are out there right now are for buyers with 760 credit scores or higher.
There you go.
And so the it's not the toxic mortgage market that we were in.
Right. Loans are not high risk. You know, they're not, that's what it basically means. Okay. The next graph is about cash out refinances. You know, today homeowners are letting their equity build. Tappable equity is the amount available for homeowners to access before hitting a maximum 80% combined loan to value, thus still leaving them with at least 20% equity. In 2006, that number was 4.6 billion. Today, the number stands at over 8 billion. Yet the percentage of cash out refinances where the homeowner takes out at least 5% more than the original mortgage amount is half of what it was in 2006, 89% versus 38%. Again, substantial home equity. And this time it's simply a matter of supply and demand. Back in 2006, it was fear of missing out dominated the housing market leading up to the 2006 housing bubble and drove up buyer demand. Back then, housing supply more than kept up as many homeowners put their houses on their market, as evidenced by this over 7 months supply of inventory for sale in 2006. Today, that number is barely 2 months, even less than that in our market. Builders also overbuilt during the bubble, but pulled back significantly over the last decade. And that pullback is a major factor in lack of available inventory today. As we look at the next chart, look at housing units completed by decade, and look at how far off we are between 2010 and 2020. And that's the main driver of the housing shortfall, the long-term decline in housing in the construction of single-family homes. The market's nothing like the run up in 2006. In fact, if we scroll down to bottom line, Bill McBride, the author of the prestigious Calculator Risk blog, predicted the last housing bubble and crash. This is what he has to say about today's housing market. It's not clear at all to me that things are going to slow down significantly in the near future. In 2005, I had a strong sense that the hot market would turn and that when it turned, things would get very ugly. Today, I don't have that sense at all because all the fundamentals are there. Demand will be high for a while because millennials need houses. Prices will keep rising for a while because inventory is so low. Good news?
Yeah.
Yes. Good news.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts, questions, ahas?
Gary, I'm hearing other people in other sectors of the economy say mirror this message.
Yep.
So like my financial planner puts out like a talk and they do have all these guest speakers and it's exactly what they're saying. Like the pent up demand is so great that even if we had, I mean, I think even if we had like 1,000 houses or 2,000 houses hit the market, they would still be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to see it when we look at the numbers in a few minutes. We're going to see that we have more active listings right now in all 3 counties than we did the previous month. But we're going to see the absorption rate and the month supply of inventory not change because more houses sold.
Yep.
Right. So
Funny how that happens.
Just feed the machine, feeding the machine.
Yep, that's it. So how much more can we feed the machine and still keep it as strong of a seller's market it is really the question that I'm curious about.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we're going to watch over the next few months to see what happens. You know.
I think, well, from what I'm hearing, based on how much pent up demand there is, it would have to be substantial in order to flip it or even slow it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're also going to see that the month supply of inventory and absorption rate, the absorption rate doubled and the month supply of inventory got cut in half year over year, you know? So that's mind boggling, you know, when you think about it. When you go from a 1.6 when you go from a 2-month supply down to a 1-month supply, or you go from a 1.7 month supply to a 0.7 month supply. It's amazing, mind-boggling, which we're going to see in a few minutes. Let's get back to the articles because I got too many here today, I think, Tim. What do experts see on the horizon for the second half of the year? Mortgage rates will likely increase but remain low. Okay. Well, I think we've been saying that for years. To me, it seems. I mean, the highest we've gotten was close to 5 a couple of fourth quarters ago, 3 or 4, and that's when inventory started sitting a little bit longer. If interest rates go up, though, inventory will sit because buyers will have had enough. Interest rates have to stay low if interest rates go up, inventory will increase. Active inventory will increase. Okay. While higher mortgage rates will help slow the pace of home sales and moderate house price growth, we expect overall housing market activity will remain robust. Our forecast has the total home sales, the sum of new and existing home sales, at 7.1 million in 2021. I wonder how that relates to the records.
Hey, Gary, did you see in the Florida Realtors email regarding mortgage rates and how they dropped from last week? Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to one of my lenders, and she told me 30-year fixed was 3 1/8, and 15-year fixed was 2 1/2, and now they're reporting 30-year fixed 2.78 and a 15-year fixed at 2.12. That's sick.
2.12, that's free money.
Yes.
Well, that's the point.
I would never pay that mortgage off. Sorry, Dave Ramsey.
Well, that's the point, right? I mean, well, that's why you see so much commercial stuff going on too. I mean, so much, you see more construction than you've ever seen before of commercial buildings and those high-rise things being built. It's crazy. Okay, home price appreciation will continue, but price growth will likely slow. Okay, you can look at the house price forecasts in the graph there. Different experts predict different levels, but that's still extremely high. 6.6 to 10.6. Those kind of numbers aren't sustainable, over the long haul. It's usually 3 to 4% is sustainable. But right now it's happening. That's why it's so great. If you haven't gotten in yet, to buy a house, buy an investment property, even though there's competition, do the numbers. And if it's gonna cash flow, now's the time to get in because properties are rising so fast. Mind-boggling. Okay.
Hey, Gary.
Yes,
So
sir.
kind of talking about rates and talking about the inventory and different things about continuously it getting held down. I wanted to kind of chime in. It's Mike over here at Van Dyke Mortgage from the KW Tampa Properties office.
Right.
So, the one thing that everybody was kind of banking on in regards to, the supply coming back up was, the moratorium getting lifted and different things along those lines. But what we ended up really seeing was a lot of the banks and institutions and servicers do a very good job of talking with the people that were in some sort of financial crisis, with doing all of the deferments, adding everything to the back end of the loan. That I think what we're seeing now is, from the inventory standpoint, a lot of people were expecting REOs to come back, short sales, foreclosures, a lot of these derogatory accounts to flood the market with inventory. And I don't think we're, quite really going to see those same levels as a result of us doing a much better job of getting the people that were in trouble resolved. Now, when it comes to the rates and everything, just like the other gentleman had kind of described, we very much have kind of seen that reversal happen multiple times. Every single time that we've seen the rates start to tick up again, we've seen a correction in the market. And, at this point, we really don't have a rough idea of when the rate rise really is going to start to happen, because the Fed's focus is still very centric on, we are still buying mortgage-backed securities. They're still buying mortgage-backed securities. Now, they are tapering off a little bit some, but every single time we've seen a big dip in the pricing, which has caused the rates to rise back up, everyone's kind of raised their hand and be like, oh no, we can't afford this.
Right.
And then they've continued to level that out. So yeah, rates right now, I mean, if we were to draw a straight line comparison back to last year, I mean, we might be an eighth off from where we were last year. So, you know, I don't really have any information as to when that rate rise is going to be, but yes, rates are rock solid right now. We are still getting bombarded with refis out the gazoo. So just wanted to chime in and kind of give you my thoughts there. I think the rate rise will happen when the mortgage-backed securities are severely tapered off and the Fed refocuses their attention on the inflation levels.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right on.
And
the
Mike,
money.
I think as long as they're seeing inflation not starting to run away, if it just stays kind of in that transitory, you know, sector where the recovery is happening, then they won't do anything probably.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
They'll
that's
just
why-
ride it out and just call it recovery and keep riding it out.
And that's why it's make hay while the sun shines, right? I mean, one of the articles I have, it says, if you don't want to, you know, cash out or take advantage of the extra equity and move up, you know, then refinance. And then you said, Mike, you're bombarded with refinances still.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of beneficial for that information right now is they just got rid of the adverse fee on refis here recently. So there was a 50 basis point adjustment for doing refis that were offsetting the refi rates from a regular primary purchase rates. And those just went away. So the refi rates just improved this last week as
That's
well.
awesome.
Does that go for cash out refis as well?
I'm not sure. I think it's on all refis. So the adverse fee was affecting all refinances for probably the better part of the last 6 to 8 months. The only thing that's still very much impacted right now is the non-owner occupied sector of all rates, whether it be purchases, refinances, et cetera. And that has to do with the Fannie Mae and the Freddie Mac 7% threshold. When that happens, Fannie and Freddie Mac are not wanting to buy as many of the securities for those mortgages because they have a ratio that they have to stay within. So the pricing on non-owner occupieds have still been kind of rough. But yeah, on cash out, non-cash out, you know, just like a simple rate and term refi, all of those adverse fees of that 50 basis point adjustment has kind of been lifted. So, I mean, that's probably almost about 1/8% movement in some severe cases, just on a quick betterment of the rates from what we're seeing.
Powerful. Yeah, awesome. Okay, next. Going back to the article, Cameron, thanks. Inventory remains a challenge, but there's reason to be optimistic. They're finding that more new listings this year compared to 2020. In 11 of the last 13 weeks, the influx of new sellers over the last couple of months has been especially helpful in slowing price gains. Also, as an indicator of the economic impact of housing, there are now 652,000 single-family homes under construction. This is 28% higher than a year ago. Of course, these are national. I don't know what our local numbers are. As we look at the forecast for prices, interest rates, inventory, and home sales, experts remain optimistic about what's on the horizon for the second half of 2021. So again, like what I love about the KCM blog, which is where I get these articles, is it always invites an appointment. Let's connect today, discuss how we can navigate to the market together in the coming months. And they always present you guys as the experts. So these are great articles to share on social media and with your databases and with your clients. Next, what to expect as the appraisal gap, yeah, that's easy for me to say. What to expect as appraisal gaps grow. And you shared before, Jake, that, you know, you haven't had a lot of issues, but it's interesting throughout the country, look at the numbers year over year, you know, 18% of the transactions of the sales were delayed last year, 6% terminated. This year, it's substantially higher. So this article is basically saying that the sellers are in such a strong driver's seat that, you know, most buyers, you know, that have the capacity will have to come up in order to buy the property and pay more than market value.
Gary, we are having issues. There's mostly on our buyer side than our listing side.
Right. Well,
And
there you go.
And I think, and I'll take credit for the success we're having on appraisals on our listing side.
There you go. Well, that's it. People with experience price properties properly, right? People that are trained and know what they're doing. But, you know, a lot of people, you know, don't understand when the training isn't there. So whether you're buying or selling, let's connect so you have an ally throughout the process to help you navigate the unexpected, including appraisal gaps. So again, this can alert a potential customer of what to expect, a potential seller of what to expect, and it validates that you're the expert and you can help them navigate that, right? Buyers that want to buy a house, generally. I mean, I heard of it just, I think, at our Tampa Market Center, somebody said that the seller was kind enough, because the buyer was a veteran, to drop their selling price to the appraised value because they wanted to show the veteran how much they appreciated their service. That's a pretty cool story. When a seller in this market's willing to take a lower dollar amount than a contract price and accept appraised value because they appreciated the buyer's service as a veteran. That's pretty cool. But again, that's probably not the trend with the market the way it is right now. So buyers need to be prepared and have the capacity documented that they can come up with the cash difference between a lower appraisal and the selling price. Okay, next, for sale by owners. Well, the good news is there's less and less of them. I mean, you would think that in a market like this, they're coming out of the woodwork, but still only 8% of our real estate transactions are for sale by owners, whereas they used to be as high as over 20%. I didn't know that back in the 80s. So this helps educate a for sale by owner on what they need to do to prepare. Okay, and also some of the things that they might be missing trying to do it on their own. First, just make a good impression. They ask great questions that their realtor could help them answer. And also it reminds them that, if you do this work on your own, you may invest capital and many hours into the wrong things. Your time is money, don't waste it. An agent can help guide you in the right direction based on the current market conditions and save you time and effort. Since we're in a hot seller's market, you don't want to delay listing your house by focusing on things that won't change your bottom line. These market conditions may not last, so lean on an agent to capitalize on today's low inventory while you can. Okay, next is pricing it right. Powerful information. If you price your house too high, you can turn buyers away before they're even in your front door, or run into problems when it comes time for the appraisal. I think there's a lot of help for sale by owners out there that I don't think all of them are greedy. I think a lot of them don't even understand how much their house could be worth if it's presented to the whole market of retail buyers. Okay. Maintaining your buyer pool and profit. Contrary to popular belief, FSBOs may actually net less profit than sellers who use an agent. I think that's pretty much proven. Navigating negotiations, juggling legal documentation. And that's an article that you can read, see if you think it's worthwhile. Okay, hang in there. You guys can look at this one. Again, next one is selling your house. Make sure you price it right. Even in this market.
It's true, Gary. I remember you saying enlist your way to success, the fishing analogy.
Yep.
And then, and we're sharing that, buyers are willing to pay above asking, even above market value from their perceived market value, but they're not willing to offer that unless they feel like they're excited, and you got to price it right to get them excited. And then you can drive it from there.
My definition of the right price for a house has always been the price at which a buyer and an agent walk through your house and can't leave without writing an offer.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And, right now it says homes typically sell within 17 days compared to 26 days. I think in our report from the board, it said it's 6 days in our market. The average home sold has 5 offers to pick from, and 54% of offers are over the asking price. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Bidding wars are driving up home prices. According to an average leading expert projections, existing home prices are expected to rise by 8.9% this year. Okay. A high list price is more likely to deter buyers and sit on the market longer or require a price drop that can raise questions among prospective buyers. Instead, focus on setting a fair price. And again, they use you guys to get the fair price. So here, underpriced homes, they lose value, they decrease future buying power, it deters skeptical buyers. Pricing at market values is a better chance of a bidding war, higher sale price, and a faster sale. If it's overpriced, it sits on the market longer. Price drops can send the wrong message to buyers, prices out potential buyers. Pricing it too high from the beginning helps sell the competition. Now, granted, one of the benefits of a seller's market is there's less competition. Okay, so that's why pricing it a little high is more forgivable in today's market. But if you're pricing it above a certain critical price point, like above $100,000 price point, or just a little bit above, you know, if you have a $500,000 listing and they want to price it at 510, why? Why? If every buyer and every realtor looking up to $500,000 doesn't see the property, it's invisible. Why not just list it at 500? Have more visibility, and if the market proves that it's worth more than 500, it'll get bid up past 510. Does that make sense? And every $100,000 price point is critical. So you got to think, how do buyers shop? How do agents shop when they're looking for houses to show? What's the cutoff points that they pick? Make sure you're within those cutoff points. Okay, and they're in visibility. All right. Bottom line, when it comes to pricing your house, working with the local real estate professional is essential. Let's get together so we can optimize your exposure, your timeline, and return on investment too. Okay, the next article. I love this graph of interest rates by the decade. Interest rates are the best they've been in my lifetime. Of course, they go back to the 60s and 50s. I was born in 57, like the Chevy, right? But yeah, right now, the interest rates are, you heard them, below 3. Unbelievable. So what do? You sell and move up, okay? If the house isn't suiting your needs for any reason, you don't want to fix it up and stay there, make it your forever home, now's the time to find the next one. And you might be moving from an intensely strong seller's market where you're selling to a slightly less strong seller's market to where you're buying. So you might be able to negotiate a little bit in the higher end. Maybe, maybe not. But the main point is what's going to go up? If values go up 9% this year and you're in a $300,000 house, you know, that means you make $27,000. If you're in a $600,000 house, you've doubled your money just by being in a more expensive home. Okay. Purchasing power. And look at this. Look at this chart on the purchasing power. This documents that when interest rates go up by a full percent, your buying power gets diminished by 10%. And just look at 2.75 up to 3.75. At 2.75, you get a $300,000 mortgage for a little bit above 1,200, right? When it goes up to 3.75, you can only get 270. That's why when rates go up, it limits the number of buyers for different sellers' homes. And that's why houses sit on the market, because buyers saying, I'm not paying that amount every month. So with interest rates so low, it's the greatest time in history to sell a house, and it's one of the greatest times in history to buy a house or an investment property. So the other thing is, if you're not going to move up, then refinance it. Like Michael was sharing with us before. If you have a house and it's not conducive for you to move up at this time, then refinance it and get your payments down as low as possible. But make sure that if you're going to refinance it, I'd see how much equity that you have, and don't go start over at the 30-year process again. If you have a property that you're 5-10 years in, you know, don't refinance it and go back to a 30-year mortgage. Do your best to come down to a 15, because it's about paying it off faster. It's not about paying interest, tons of interest all over again. Does that make sense? Okay, let's get to the data. You ready for some data?
Bring it on, Gary.
All right. REOs, foreclosure properties. There's only 10 actives currently in Pinellas County. 12 sold last month. They sold at 103% of list price. That means that the list price was a starting point. The absorption rate actually dropped from 140% down to 120%, which means the month supply went from a 0.7 month to a 0.8, which is less than a 1 month supply of inventory, which means that it's an off the chart seller's market, very strong seller's market. Everybody understand that? Anybody not understand what I just said? Raise your hand or speak. Short sales in Pinellas, virtually non-existent. There's only been one active listing the last couple of months. Probably not the same one, but it could be. I'm not sure. 3 sold. Last month, nothing sold. 3 sold in June, and that means there's a third of a month supply of inventory, a 0.3 month supply of inventory. Again, off the chart seller's market. Not many options for buyers. Now we look at the next page. It's interesting information. Non-distressed properties. Right now, or as the day that I got this information, which was July 18th, earlier in the week, there were 1,660 active listings in our Pinellas County. In May, last month, there were 1,483. So right now, there are currently 177 more actives right now than there were last month. That's almost a 12% increase in active inventory. Meanwhile, year over year, there's a 50.2% drop. Last June, there were 3,336 active listings. That compared to 1,660 right now. But even with 50% less inventory, we had 345 more sales year over year, from 2010 up to 355. That's a 17.2% increase in the number of sales with 50% less inventory. The non-distressed properties that sold, the 2,355 that sold for 100% of list price on average. And if you look at the absorption rates, you can see last June, the absorption rate was 60.3. This June, it's 140.7. Last June, the month supply of inventory was 1.7 in Pinellas County. This June, it's 0.7. The sellers are in the driver's seat. They control the terms. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles right now. That's the way the market is. Does that mean it's a bad time for buyers? No. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And why? Because interest rates are so low, number one, if they're going to get a mortgage, and because appreciation is so high. People that have waited have lost substantial. If people that were thinking about buying last year bought, according to this information that we have, they'd have $33,600 in equity if they bought a $350,000 home. Does that make sense? If they've been waiting for 2 or 3 years, if they're waiting 3 years, they've lost over 100 grand.
Gary, we had a buyer, we put her under contract 6 times already since
Wow.
January, and she's canceled all of them.
Oh dear.
All of the properties that she went under contract on sold at or above the contract price that she was on.
Right.
And now she's basically out of the market. It's like, you could
Yeah.
have bought all of those. All of those, we bought all of them in January at the price that they were for sale for and sold them now and made 20%.
Well, that's why it's important to ask this buyers, tell me what your definition of a deal is
Yeah.
before we get started. Because if the deal is getting 10% less than list price, it ain't going to happen.
No, we're playing not to lose here at this point.
Right. The point is, you buy something now for 200, even though it might only be worth 190, in a year, it's going to be worth,
240.
right. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. We sold someone a house in November for 200. We just sold it last week for 245. The appraisal came in at 272. They've done nothing to the house.
Amazing. That's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So yes, that's the Pinellas information. Now, interestingly enough, looking at further data that I pull all actives. see, the last report was just non-distressed property. This is all actives, distressed or non-distressed or even auction. So last month there were 1,505 actives. This month there's 1,682. That's 177 more actives right now than there were last month. But there's 306 fewer pending. Okay, 2,756 pending. But still, it's not twice as many pending, but it's still, 1.6, 1.7 times the amount of pending. So I would check pending properties in the MLS also when you're working with the buyer. Because there might be things, I would search pendings, actives, withdrawn, expired properties when I'm searching for a buyer right now to see what comes up and make those phone calls. Find out if that pending, call the agent that is pending and see if it's a solid deal. See if you can get a backup offer in there, or see if there's an expired or withdrawn that you might alleviate the buyer from having to compete if you can find an old expired or withdrawn that still might be interested in selling. Does that make sense? And save yourself a lot of time and hassle. And sales were up month over month from May to June. Okay. Now we get to Pasco. Only 6 active foreclosure properties on the market. There were 2 in May. Only 7 sold. 12 sold in May. Those 7 that sold at 97% of list price. The absorption rate was over 100%, 116.7%, which means that the month supply was less than a month, 0.9 month supply of inventory. Again, according to NAR, a 0 to a 6-month supply of inventory is considered, a 5-month supply is considered a seller's market. The closer to 0, the more intensive a seller's market. A 5 to 7-month supply is considered a balanced or a normal market. And a 7-month or greater month supply of inventory is considered a buyer's market. We haven't seen one of those in a while. Short sales in Pasco. 5 actives, 2 sold. 2.5 month supply of inventory. Non-distressed in Pasco. Okay, here we go. In Pasco, there were 771 listings last month. And this month there's 901. So there's 130 more actives. So inventory month over month increased by almost 17%. Year over year, it's dropped by 43%, from 1581 to 901. But sales are up by 186 sales year over year, or 13.9%. Non-distressed in Pasco sold at 101% of list price on average. Those 1,524 sold at 101%. So in Pasco, that asking price was a starting point. Now again, looking at the absorption rates, you see the absorption rate last year was 84.6, and it just about doubled, almost doubled at 169.1. And the month supply got cut in half from a 1.2 month supply to a 0.6 month supply of inventory in Pasco County. Very intense, strong seller's market. We look at the combined data. Month over month, there's 130 more actives. There's 187 less pending. Okay. And we had more closings month over month. Moving on to Hillsborough. 7 actives, 11 sold. This blows my mind. I know I've said it every mastermind, but way back in the time when distress was really taking us by storm, there were over 900 active foreclosure properties on the market in Hillsborough County. Now there's 7. 104% of list price they sold at. Absorption rate 157.1%. 0.6 month supply of inventory. Short sales in Hillsborough. Thanks, Tamara, you're the best. Right on top of it. 10 actives, 12 sold. 0.8 month supply of inventory. Again, intensely strong. And now Pasco non-distressed numbers are as follows. Month over month, there's 227 more active listings for you to sell, 14.3% more. But year over year, there's almost 44% less, from 3229 down to 1812. That's 1,417 less active listings. Meanwhile, the sales went up from 2675 to 2656 up to 2975. That's 319 more sales with 1,417 less active listings. That's 101% of list price. Again, you look at the numbers, and the absorption rate doubled and the month supply cut in half, from 82 up to 164, and the month supply from 1.2 down to 0.6. And if we look at the combined numbers, we have 232 more actives this month than we did last month, and 267 less pendings. There was a total of 3,000 sales. When you combined everything together, there were 3,000 sales in Hillsborough County. I've never seen that number. I've never seen a number of sales in a month at 3 in any of our counties. This is the first time I've ever seen it. Any thoughts, questions, ahas?
That's a lot of activity.
Yep.
Gary, you were talking about searching those pendings. I just looked at the MLS and divided the back on market by the active inventory in the last 7 days, and 28% of houses came back on the market.
There you go.
Of the active inventory, we've got like it's like so much. We are calling pendings. Like, you got to call the pendings because 28% are coming back on market.
Well, that's just smart. It's a smart move, and it's an opportunity to spare you and your buyer of going into the rat race. You know, the rat race is 10 other offers that you're going to be competing against that you have to try to beat. You know, doing that with withdrawals, expireds, and pendings can give you a shot at doing it. And tell the buyer that you're doing it as part of the service you provide, and they're going to work with you. They're going to hire you. They're going to sign a buyer broker agreement if you do those things to try to spare them the aggravation of competing. You know, you may not be able to, but it's what you're going to do to try to alleviate that. You know, it's powerful stuff. Yeah. Anybody else? Thoughts? I got some more interesting data if you like. Let's get back to the MLS. You got a few more minutes. Yeah, we got 5 more minutes. Just some real quick. Here we can see in Pinellas County, last month there were 1,710 active listings. Now there's 1,886. So that's 176 more listings. But inventory, it's interesting. Inventory month over month, year over year, 3,907 down to 1,886. You know, that's over 2,000 less listings. You know, this number says that there's 67. Well, no, this number is like 2021, 2021 less listings. Meanwhile, there was, if you look at the sales at the bottom, 2,272 is the second highest number of sales in the last 5 years. The only number that beats it is 2017. 2017 was a record year, right? But look at 2017 inventory. Scroll back up for a second. That's a far cry. What was the inventory in June of 2017? $5,843. Does everybody see that? So with 5,843 active listings, they had 2,412 sales, which is what? 140 more sales. With only 1,886 active listings, there were 2,272 sales. Pretty powerful stuff. Interesting. Now, just out of curiosity, on the next page, I'll just read some numbers off to you. I did the numbers. I did the numbers for you. Jake, you probably already have these done, but you know, over a million, the month supply is 2.2. From 900 to 999, it's 1 month supply. From 8 to 899, it's 0.9. So it's a month supply or less up to a million in all price ranges. Mind-boggling. 700 to 800, it's 0.8. 600 to 700, it's 0.9. 500 to 600, it's 0.8. 400 to 500, it's 0.7. 300 to 400, it's 0.7. Amazing, right? Now let's keep going. Pasco. In Pasco, there's only 32 more listings month over month, according to this. And more than almost 1,000, it's 974 fewer listings. But in Pasco, the most number of sales in the last 5 years is 1,400. With the least amount of inventory in the last 5 years, Pasco had the most amount of sales. With just a little bit under a 0.7 month supply of inventory. Now in Pasco, if we look at the next page, I pulled the numbers. Granted, there's a lot less properties over a million up there, but there's 30 actives and 10 sold. So there's a 3-month supply for a million and up. 900 to a million, it's 2.5 month supply. 800 to 900, it's a 1.5 month supply. And then from 800 and below, it's below a month supply. 0.9, 0.8, 0.6, so on and so forth. Questions, thoughts, ahas? Let's go to Hillsborough and then we'll call it a day. In Hillsborough, again, we have more listings in June than we did in May. But inventory dropped by 1,930 actives. That's almost 50%. Meanwhile, sales went up to the most number of sales in June 2807 ever in the last 5 years at least, but that's ever. Okay. So the month supply was again right around a 0.7, a little bit under 0.7, and above a million in Hillsborough. We have a 2.6 month supply. Between 900 and a million, we have a 2-month supply. Between 800 and 900, we have a 1.5 month supply. 700 and 800, a 1.3 month supply. And then everything below 700 is less than a month supply of inventory. Thoughts? Ahas? Questions?
This is awesome, Gary. Thank you.
My pleasure. My
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you.
My pleasure. Okay. Any other ahas or thoughts?
This is definitely a different market from what we experienced back in 2005, 2009, and 10, and all that when we had so much on the books. It's just amazing how, when you're looking at these numbers, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, something would have to drastically happen for anything to go back to where it was for us. You know, we're not in a housing bubble. You know, even with forbearance, we're not going to be in a foreclosure crisis like we were before. There may be foreclosure inventory coming. You know, we don't know, but there's more equity than there ever has been. People are in better positions than there ever has been. So unless something happens with COVID or some other disaster happens, you know, just make hay while the sun shines, guy. Make hay while the sun shines and go get after your unfair share and help people build their real estate portfolio. I know I tell you this all the time, but you know, in the first MREA book, Gary and Dave Jenks interviewed this gal called Christina Rodriguez from Century 21 in California. She only had a 300-person database, but everyone in her database had to commit to buy one property from her, one investment property out in California. So she had a real simple business plan to sell 300 properties a year. Where the average price range was probably just a little bit under a million. I think that's brilliant. But she was their advisor. She was their wealth advisor. She advised people how to build their real estate portfolio and help them do that. And I think we're missing the boat. We try to do deal by deal, and we miss the second to the 10th sale. You know, it takes a lot longer and a lot more money to find the first deal with the person. But if you do things the right way and take care of them the right way, then the second to 10th deal with that same person, that same party is just a whole different experience, right? So go after that second to 10th sale. And then I'll leave you with a couple of quotes from Jim Rohn. The stronger the why, the easier the how becomes. Profound. It's so true. You know, when you're worried about the how, you limit the possibilities. The stronger your why, the easier the how becomes. And then last but not least, in any situation you can think of, impatience is a source of weakness and fear, while patience is substance and strength. Love you guys. Have a great month. I'm coming to see you, God willing, August 11th, 12th, and 13th. So it'll be great to see your faces in person. I'll be in, I think, Palm Harbor, the 11th, Tampa, the 12th, Bel Air, the 13th.
Yes.
I'm coming at you. Love you all.
We're
Have a
gonna
good-
do that. We're gonna do the numbers explained after that, Gary, just so you know.
Awesome.
I'll follow it up.
Also, we have to figure out how to do or find a resource for us to do the MLS reports that we get, the type that we get, because the people that were doing it before aren't going to be doing it after next month. So, or we'll have to find other reports, other ways of doing it, but I'll still have mine. But if we'll talk about it later. That's not a problem. Have a great month, guys.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Gary.
Gary.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Tamara. You're the
Thank you.
best.